Hello, Culture Hashers, Culture Hashettes. This week we're going to talk about another UK artist, Mostack. We're going to get into his debut album, Stacko. Mostack's quite an interesting artist. His style is quite versatile and he merges the lines between Afrobeat, R&B, hip-hop and dancehall. This isn't particularly unique in this day and age where everyone who sings raps and everyone who raps does a bit of singing. Just look at Dave and Stormzy and J Hus. These guys all employ a similar style to Mostack and have released conceptually dense and thoughtful projects in the last couple of years. Mostack's come to people's attention by mainly performing the hooks on tracks like Dave's No Words, and he had a pretty decent feature on Steel Bangles Fashion Week. Until the release of this album, Mostack's primarily seen as a featured artist, a sort of Nate Dogg figure that appears on people's tracks but doesn't have a full-blown project to his name yet, until Stacko, an album that doesn't really challenge Mostack's status as a featured artist. Mostack even quotes Nate Dogg on Wild when he says, "Ain't no fun if the homies can't get none." But obviously, Mostack's a long way from a legend like Nate Dogg, but he'd probably tell you that himself. Stacko's primarily UK hip-hop in its sound. Stacko does a bit of singing every now and then, but the majority of the tracks feature him mainly rapping. And he hits the two main cliches in terms of subject matter. The majority of songs are about girls or they're about money, making the project quite one-dimensional. And across the album, Mostack is continually outshone by his guests. On the track Shine Girl, the real star is Stormzy, who sings a tender hook and has a great verse on here. Mostack, he's there, he does his thing, but the real star is Stormzy. Stinkin' Rich features Dave and J Hus, artists that Mostack's worked with in the past. And it's quite cool to see all three of these together on one track. But Mostack starts his verse by saying, "All I want is more life and more vagina." Essentially, the mission statement on this album, Mostack's all about girls, 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 getting laid. And it's very one-dimensional across Stacko. And for him to just summarise the entire album in one line is pretty impressive and just shows how redundant a lot of the lyrics and tracks are on this album. Dave and J Hus just carry this track as you'd expect. Naturally, Dave chucks a few puns into his verse. He says that he bought his girl a purse and now she wants to pursue him. The thing about Dave is you read out his punchlines and they sort of sound a bit shit, but you need to hear him deliver it with his sort of cheeky smile that you imagine he has when he lays the verse down in the studio. But Mostack lacks this interesting delivery and a lot of his punchlines fall flat. He does have some good moments, like on Respect and Love, when he says, "You should never trust an Arsenal fan that still chats to Lingard." I thought that was a cool football reference, and it's just something I love about hearing UK hip-hop, all these local references, talking about football, and just things you grew up with. So that's something that I always enjoy about hearing UK rap albums, hearing how they just throw in a little football reference and just let you know who they're supporting. None of them are West Ham fans like me, but that's okay. One day we'll get a rapper that supports West Ham. But for the most part, Stacko is quite a bland project. He's got tracks like Girl Diary, which feels like a stale take on Jay-Z's Girls, 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 or Ice-T's 99 Problems. Just one of those tracks where he just goes through all the different girls he's seeing, what's interesting about them, and why he's such a player. And it lacks the personality and energy of a track like Girls, Girls, Girls. And there's none of that subtle nudge, nudge, wink, wink humour that made that track so enjoyable. Girl Diary just feels like a laundry list of like, yep, so I see her, yep, 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 yep. It just doesn't have anything to make it stand out amongst the album, and there's a distinct lack of energy and charisma to it. There are brighter moments like I'm the One featuring Fredo, but Fredo mainly carries the track. But it's interesting hearing him go bar for bar with Mostack. But I feel like Fredo exposes Mostack's limitations as a rapper. We've also got Make Me Fall in Love and You Can Keep Me Forever. The production's quite interesting. It feels like an updated version of a garage R&B love song. The sort of thing Craig David was doing on his first album. The beat's got a nice rhythm and I like the chopped up sample as well. What I like about this track is that it's closer to R&B. And it feels different to the majority of Stacko. I'd like to know a bit more about Mostack, hear the story behind him. I think the deepest moment on the album is on Make Me Fall in Love, where Mo Stack talks about how he likes cuddles, but he's scared to say it in front of his mates. But by the final track, What I Wanna, which is quite a rebellious, fun single, Mo Stack comes to terms with this and freely admits that he likes getting cuddles from girls. So over the last 4 tracks of the album, we learned that Mo Stack likes cuddles, and he can finally admit it to his friends. And I can relate to him here because I also like cuddles. Stacko massively exposes the flaws in Mo Stack's style. He's good in small doses, like on Steel Bangles Fashion Week, he's great on there. And singles like What I Wanna have just got great energy, and he's got good personality on here. He's funny and charismatic on here. He says that he could even sell Biggie Smalls' album to Tupac. Quite an amusing line, and you can tell Mo Stack's quite impressed with it because he says it twice. But the problem with Stacko as an album is that Mo Stack seems to have taken this fun, charismatic formula and just repeated it over 13 tracks without really varying things up. And he just portrays himself as this one-note character that's obsessed with sex and money and doesn't really have anything else to show for it. He should take inspiration from the likes of Dave and Stormzy and J Hus and really let his audience get to know him a bit more and provide more variety in terms of subject matter on the album. I'm disappointed by Stacko. I thought the album would be more enjoyable than it was. It just feels generic and hits most of the cliches that we hear in hip-hop at the moment. He doesn't do anything new or different, and there are plenty of artists out there that are fusing R&B with Afrobeat and hip-hop. So for me, Mo Stack, Stacko is worthy of 4 out of 10.